You're taking a fitness test and you're emphasizing one element over the others, and it drives me crazy. Don't do that. If you're programming a workout, please never do that. All right, today we're gonna break down the Open. We're gonna analyze all the programming and see if the Open did what it's supposed to do. But what is the Open supposed to do? I think it's supposed to do two things. It's supposed to give you an accurate representation of your current fitness while also properly and accurately filtering down to the fittest 25% of people to go to quarterfinals. So we have to figure out if that is what the Open actually did. Now, how do we know if something gives you an accurate representation of your fitness? Well, does it fit into the definition of fitness, which is your work capacity across broad time and modal domains? So let's look at first the broad time. Do the time domains of the Open, are they broad? I would say no. All right, and here's why. We have no workout that's under 5 minutes long. We have a workout between 6 and 12 minutes for average population. That would be 24.1. I'd say most people finished before the time cap of 15 minutes. In the last workout, most people didn't. All right, most people are getting capped for those 15 minutes. And then the second workout is 20 minutes long, meaning we have two workouts that are 15 minutes or over and one that's still over 10 minutes. That means all three of our workouts for the average population, which that's who Dave Castro says we're programming for.
Everyone. And here's another thing with programming the Open. We're not programming for the Rich Fronings and the Danielle Brandons and the best in the world. The Open programming there's 99% of the people doing the Open aren't those people. And so 99%. So we have to create it with a large cohort in mind and a lot of people in mind.
Now, all three workouts are over 10 minutes long. Is that an accurate representation of broad time? I don't think so. The reason why we do broad time in the first place, just like we're taught in level 1, is the three different energy systems: phosphagen, glycolytic, and aerobic. If you're not testing all of them, you're not testing every aspect of fitness. And I get it, you only have 3 weeks to do it, but still, you can do better. You could do a closed gate workout where it's short for 4 minutes and you get 3 minutes rest, then you do something longer. Then you test the short energy pathway, and then you do a longer one afterwards. You can do it. They've done it before. They didn't do it this time. So on broad time, was the time very broad? I would say no. I'd give it like a 2 out of 5. All right, honestly, not very good. Workouts were fine, good workouts, but you put them together into one test, and now you're testing for the average person everything between 10 and 20 minutes. If you look at for the pros, you give them a 6-minute workout, roughly an 8 to 11 minute workout, and then you give them a 20-minute workout, a little bit better. For the pros, it's a lot better, but Dave Castro says we're not programming the Open for the professionals. So if you're programming for the elites, program for the elites and then scale for everybody else. But if you're not, you better program it so that everybody, the average population, the majority, the 300,000 people who sign up,
99% of the people doing the Open aren't those people,
are actually getting an accurate representation of their fitness when they finish. But let's move on. What's the other half of the definition of fitness? It is broad time and modal domains. So let's look at the modals that we tested. I want to break it down in monostructural gymnastics and weightlifting, just like CrossFit does. So 24.1, we have monostructural. It's a burpee. You can say it's gymnastics all you want. It's mostly monostructural. For most people, it's an aerobic activity. It's just about moving. It's not about moving your body through space. And we have weightlifting, the dumbbell snatch, which you could still argue is monostructural for most people, but we'll stick with weightlifting. In 24.2, we have monostructural on the rower. We have gymnastics with the double unders, and we have weightlifting with the deadlift. But you could also argue that the double unders aren't gymnastic. They're monostructural because it's more about your capacity to keep moving than it is about your ability to not mess up. So depending on who you are, for me, I just kept messing up. I can do them unless I trip, and I tripped a lot. Then 24.3, you have weightlifting and you have gymnastics. Solid workout. There's no monostructural element to it in its own way. The progression there, which I'll get to, is a little bit different. So let's talk about movement patterns before we move on. Because we have MWG, we also have the movement patterns that they're expressed through. So we do a hinge and a lower pull, our deadlift, and our dumbbell snatch. We do that twice. If you count the rower, we're doing it again for a third time. Our jumping, we're gonna double under, we're doing a burpee over the dumbbell. So we're jumping twice. Our squat and lower push, we're doing it twice if you include the rower. If you don't include the rower, then we're only doing it once, and that's in a thruster. And yes, it's expressed between a lower weight and a heavier weight, but still, you're only doing it once in one variation. For our upper pull, we have our chest to bar, our bar muscle up, and our dumbbell snatch if you include that. I'm kind of iffy about it. I'm going to put it in for now, but you don't, it's not really an upper body pull. It's more of a lower body pull. Upper body push, we have our thruster and we have our bar muscle up. If you didn't feel it, it's probably because you're really fit or you just didn't get there to express it. But my chest and triceps and shoulders were blowing up from my pressing on the thruster and the bar muscle up. So we have our upper pull, upper push, squat, jump, and hinge. I think we hit everything we needed to hit in our movement patterns, but wasn't enough. Let's keep going down. In our skill progressions, because most people are arguing about, well, there's not enough skill in the open. There's too little skill. There's too much skill. There's no skill, and then all the skill. But is that accurate?
You make the first 2 weeks so accessible that virtually anyone can do it. Then you take the final week. So now you've created this theme where, all right, the entire open through the first 2 weeks, the theme is inclusivity. No matter who you are, you can do it. You can get some reps into the workout. All right, that's the first 2 weeks. Then the third week, fuck all of you. None of you can do it. Who the fuck, what kind of normal persons? People aren't just randomly doing chest to bar now.
So you think it should be like a gated workout? And there should be
I don't know what it should be. I just think that the
you have to test
really
skills
bad.
somehow, and they haven't.
You do it in quarterfinals. I mean, or
every skill.
I don't agree with that too much though, because you can't do like Cindy for the open, because all you're doing is like, well, even that's got pull-ups. I mean, we just now touched the rig. I don't know.
Right,
I think it should have been gated. I think that they need to have more gates because everyone can play. The better athletes at the show get to showcase
chest to bar,
pull-ups. You just go straight to chest to bar. You go
muscle.
from no skills and no heavy weight straight to chest to bar in the third week. I think that's what's dumb about it. I think at least in the first 2 weeks, you have some sort of, hey, we're stepping in that direction. Be ready. Or at least make the third week pull-ups, then chest to bar, pull-ups, then toes to bar, then chest to bar, then bar muscle ups. It just seems like they don't know which direction they're trying to go. First 2 weeks is for everyone. Third week isn't.
Let's look at gymnastics first. So how is our skill progression in gymnastics? Well, it started out with our ability to move ourselves around a dumbbell, to move yourself through space. That's what gymnastics is. And then it's moving yourself around other objects. Weightlifting is moving objects around us. Gymnastics is us moving around objects. So first we move ourselves around a dumbbell, then we have to move ourselves through the double unders. So it adds a little bit more skill, and then you have to move yourself around an object, meaning chest to bar and bar muscle up. So yes, it's a fluid progression, but it's kind of a large jump. I think a toes to bar or a regular pull-up would be a more appropriate jump after the double unders instead of a chest to bar muscle up, but I don't make the workouts. Monostructural progression, let's look at that. We have the burpee. I'm calling it monostructural. I'm not calling it gymnastics here. We have the row, so you're just doing a very cyclical movement now. I'd almost consider that a regression from a burpee. And then we have ourselves 24.3. How did monostructural capacity present itself in 24.3? Well, it didn't in its own way. But monostructural is more than just running, rowing, skiing. It's your ability. It's almost like when someone calls a workout, it's just an aerobic workout. It's just aerobic stuff. They're typically meaning monostructural, but the whole idea of being able to move yourself through cyclical patterns and be able to breathe, that's what most people talk about when they're talking about monostructural. So in 24.3, how did it present itself? It presented itself in non-cyclical ways. The thruster, when you're doing that many of them, and then chest to bar, they're cyclical movements in that you keep doing them, but they're not cyclical in the fact that you can do them for an hour, right? So your ability to express and keep moving in your aerobic capacity is expressed through unconventional, non-cyclical ways in 24.3, which is the ultimate progression in my mind of your monostructural capacity and ability. So honestly, I think that progression is fine, that we don't need that certain element like a row or a ski or a shuttle run in 24.3, because it shows, are you able to be fit? Like, yes, you can do burpees and yes, you can row for a long period of time, but can you express that same fitness in non-conventional forms? And that's for me, that's where I always mess up, always. The third workout is always my worst because it doesn't have a conventional monostructural element. Let's go to weightlifting. Our weightlifting progression, we have our dumbbell snatch, we have our deadlift, and then we have our thruster. Our deadlift was mainly light to moderate for most people. For pros, definitely light. For most people, probably moderate. Heavy for some. And then our thruster, start light to mod, and then end moderate to heavy, depending on who you are. For me, it was heavy. I'm not great at 135 thrusters. I did the best I could. So I think that progression of weightlifting was fine, good. Some people didn't think we went heavy enough, but I think it's totally fine. I think it did what the Open had to do. So let's go to the conclusion for, are the modals that we tested in the Open, are they varied enough for our definition of fitness to be accurate? So I think we were repetitive in some areas, but I think that we were progressive in the way we repeated things, if that makes sense. Overall, I think we hit everything we needed to hit. I know we didn't go crazy heavy, but we also didn't do any crazy gymnastic skills. Bar muscle up is still a very basic skill in gymnastics. In CrossFit, we don't even touch the surface of real gymnastic capabilities. We also didn't do anything crazy long aerobic. I know we were on the rower for a lot, but still, honestly, 20 minutes isn't that long. For CrossFit, sometimes it is, but in reality, it's not. And then, so we didn't do anything crazy. But if you think that we should have done one of those things, fine. That's fine. But it's only 3 weeks, so you can't do it all. If you're gonna do something crazy heavy, you also have to do something crazy long. And then you have to do something crazy with your gymnastic capabilities. Because if you're testing one, you should appropriately test all of them. Because if you don't, you skew the leaderboard. Just like last year with the 1 rep max thruster. You have people scoring first place on that workout and then coming very middle of the pack in all the others. So it completely ruins the leaderboard because you're taking a fitness test and you're emphasizing one element over the others, and it drives me crazy. Don't do that. If you're programming a workout, please never do that. All right, so we pulled from the floor, we went below parallel, 2 varying loads, we pulled our body weight, and we moved light weight quickly. I would give this a 3.5 out of 5 for our modalities being varied. I think it was all right. I think it was okay. I think we touched everything we needed to touch for the Open to be an accurate test of fitness. So, did the Open test our fitness appropriately? Yes. Did it test it perfectly? No, but it never will. You can't test fitness perfectly. That's why every year at the games we have commentators, we have podcasts, Chase and Bill always talking about the programming and breaking it down, because there's no perfect test of fitness. There isn't. But that's part of the fun. That's why every year it's different, because you can look forward to something different. So appropriate, yes. Perfect, no. Is the top 25% going to be an accurate representation of who needs to go to quarterfinals? I think so. Yeah, I would say yes. And if you don't think so, because you didn't get in, because you're waiting on your 300-pound barbell, or your gymnastic pullovers, or your crossovers, or you're waiting on a 3K row, well, maybe you just need to get fitter overall.
If you needed something so specific and isolated outside all the other things you should be good at to get to the top 25%, you're flat out not fit enough to be there. And the same thing for high skill gymnastics or some massive aerobic conditioning monostructural single modality tests. Like if those are the things you're hinging this on, not you, not anybody here, just people that I hear, you're just not fit enough to be there and you got to go back to the drawing board. Period.
Well, it's because if they are worried about the one thing that is not their strength, so they don't get to put their big cards on the table. It's like, okay, fit is you got to be good at all of those things.
It's not the problem with the programming. It's a problem with your own fitness, that you don't prioritize fitness. You prioritize the things you're good at. So get better. And I'll see you all in quarterfinals.